If you had told me a decade ago that I would ditch the grocery store and question everything in my home from my frying pan to my light bulbs, I probably would have laughed you out of the room and called you crazy. But here we are. Today, I want to talk about the rabbit holes as a health and wellness junkie and a health coach that I've gone down, from my diet to personal products that I use, cleaning products that I use, my kitchen purge, artificial light, and circadian rhythm in nature. So those are six big ones, six big rabbit holes that I've fallen down. And none of these happened all at once. These sort of all happened at the same time. But one sort of leads to another. And I think as someone, if you end up being someone who gets really into health and wellness, you're going to have a hard time avoiding these rabbit holes. And once you go down them, it's really tough to come back out. And it kind of all starts with diet, right? So when I started to understand diet and I started to coach people in weight loss, originally, from my own understanding, it started with calories in, calories out. 10 years ago, I was 210 pounds. And that's 210 pounds on a 5'6" frame. And I ate like an asshole and I drank like a fish. And I knew at that time that I wasn't healthy, but I didn't know to the extent of what, I was doing to my body. So I hired a trainer when I got divorced, and it had nothing to do with getting healthy. It had absolutely nothing to do with getting healthy. It only had to do with getting a revenge bond. And at that moment in my life, my understanding of sort of my body was calories in, calories out. I wanted to lose weight. I had to eat a little bit less, and I had to move more. But I wasn't focused on the types of food I was putting in my body. I just thought that I needed to put less food into my body. And that worked. I did end up losing a bunch of weight. I met my husband in the gym. He was a bodybuilder, and I started bodybuilding. And I hired a bodybuilding coach. And every week, my bodybuilding coach would send me my meal plan. And the focus of the meal plans was macros. So my understanding of the health and human body sort of evolved from calories in, calories out to balancing your macros and using macros to sort of achieve the physique that you want. But it still wasn't health driven. It wasn't how do I feel the best? It was how do I build muscle and then take fat off and then build muscle and then take fat off. And that required manipulating my macros, proteins, carbs, and fats. And that worked. And when I was bodybuilding, I was able to put on a lot of muscle and I was able to get very, very lean. And I had packages I was very proud of. I built physiques I was very proud of. And every time I stepped on stage, it was a more impressive physique than I had had the previous year. But I never felt really good in my body. I never felt good. I could do it. I could mind over matter. I could, muscle my way through a prep, but I was a mess emotionally, even though I thought that I was managing it well. I wasn't. The people around me would sort of have to gauge my mood during a prep to say, is today a good day to, interact with her? Or does she need some space? And I never sort of felt happy with my body. I could manipulate it how I wanted, but I never felt good in it. And when I essentially sort of retired from bodybuilding or stopped doing it competitively, I had to sort of transition my understanding of diet and movement. And for a while, I just went back to my old habits. I started to eat like an asshole. I wasn't paying any attention to the food that I was putting in my body until my husband had a health scare and he did the research and he went carnivore. And I didn't initially join him in that journey. He went carnivore a full year before I did. And he started to look really good and he started to feel really good. And he talked a lot about why. He was doing the research and he was understanding what his body needed to function optimally, to heal itself from within. And I started to be like, well, he looks really good and he feels really good. Like, I want that. I want to look really good and I want to feel really good. So I went carnivore too, and I started to do my own research. And one book led to another. Every book led to another. And the deeper I started to understand the human body, the more I started to understand my human body, it was like light bulbs went off. And I started to see things and started to understand things that I never saw before and I couldn't understand before. That, we are carnivorous beings. And although we can digest food and that isn't meat or animal fats or dairy, we're not really designed to do it. We still have DNA that sort of stopped evolving in the Paleolithic period. So our bodies are expecting a certain sort of nutrients, and we can't even get out of our own way and everything we're putting into it is not what our bodies are expecting. If we were truly carnivorous beings, if we truly were meant to eat a majority of our diet from plants, and that's to say that we can't digest some of it, because we absolutely can, and I'm not saying carnivore is for everyone. But we have a really short, small intestine. So in order to get the nutrients out of plants, how that happens is during the fermentation process. Like in cows, they have really long, small intestines and multiple stomachs. And as they digest those foods, they ferment, and the nutrients are then broken down, and then their bodies can do something with it. We have really short, small intestines. So to get the nutrients out of plants, it takes much more energy, and it's far less efficient than eating meat. We also have a high stomach pH. Animals with high stomach pHs are predators and they're carnivores. And that high pH is meant to break down muscle tissue and fat, not necessarily plants. You don't need a high stomach pH to break down plants. You do need it to break down muscle tissue and fats. So I start to go down all these rabbit holes. It's like, well, what does the human body really want? And meanwhile, I've made the transition to carnivore. I've gotten through the suck period, because the initial phase where you crash off carbs and sugar, there's a suck phase. But if you can get through that phase, I started to feel really good. I got lean. I got leaner without counting calories, without counting my macros, without thinking about a single thing than I was for my first show. And I felt a million times better than I ever did bodybuilding at that leanness. Like, I felt good. I was clear. I had no brain fog. I didn't feel like The Walking Dead the way I did when I was cutting and just focusing on my macros and having carbohydrates, sugar, fruit, all of those things in my diet. And I was like, this is crazy train. I can't believe how good I feel. And it's because I was feeding my body in a way that my body was needed and expected. And everyone's body's different. Like, I'm not saying carnivore is for everyone. I'm saying carnivore-ish, keto diets that are low in refined carbohydrates and low in sugar are right for almost everyone. And there are those freaks who can eat as much hot garbage as they can possibly imagine and always look good. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about everyone else. Those of us who are not quite that blessed when it comes to what our body needs. So this sort of evolution in my understanding of my body sort of led to the questioning of, like, how could this be? How is it that the grocery store, from produce to dairy, is filled with shit nobody should be eating? And it's things that I, fully had cut out of my life. And so you start to see these holes, these cracks in the system that we're living in. The next one that didn't stop making sense to me was rabbit hole number 2, and that's the personal products that we use. The products we slather all over our skin and our face. And this is a bigger one for women than I think that it is for men, because of makeup. And all of those things, some of them have formaldehyde in them. They have petroleum products in them. I mean, they are just genuinely, like, if I'm not consuming any of these chemicals, none of these chemicals, none of this processed crap, no seed oils, none of this is going into my body. Why would I slather it all over my skin? Why would I put petroleum products all over my skin? So in my household, we eliminated all of these things. We don't use toothpaste anymore. Toothpaste has fluoride in it. Fluoride is a known neurotoxin. If you buy fluoride as a producer of anything, it's marked as poisonous. So why would we be putting that in our mouth all this time? And then I, went down the fluoride rabbit hole. You don't need fluoride to protect your teeth. And when you're not eating sugar, processed carbs, or any of that garbage, your mouth is just that much healthier. Because the craziest part about not using toothpaste and not eating sugar is you don't wake up with a mouth that tastes disgusting. If you're waking up every single morning and your mouth tastes disgusting, it's your fluoride and it's the sugar and it's the refined crap that you're eating. But when you just eat meat and animal fat, you don't wake up with a disgusting mouth. It's night and day. We don't use plastic toothbrushes anymore. In that same vein, we use true boar's hair bristles toothbrushes. And yes, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And the first time you use a new one, you got the shed. But once you get past that, you don't even notice the difference. What we do use, if like one of us feels like we need like a little extra clean, otherwise it's just water, you just brush with a little bit of water. What we do use is a little bit of baking soda. Not a lot, because you don't want to take the enamel off. But just a little bit to kind of give you that like extra clean. I no longer buy lotion. I make all of my lotion out of beef tallow, and sometimes it's coconut oil in the summer. In the winter, I use castor oil or organic jojoba oil or sweet almond oil, and I make all of our own lotions. My husband and I don't use deodorant anymore. There is aluminum in deodorant, and aluminum crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it's a crazy thing to put on your body, particularly in an area where your pores open and sweat. So there's kind of an exchange there. Instead, we use a little bit of magnesium spray to balance the pH and kill the bacteria that causes odor. And I create a tallow deodorant that we kind of put over it. And that one I originally bought, the tallow deodorant. I found one that I trusted the ingredients in and the ingredient profile. And then when it was out, I just reverse engineered it. The ingredients were clean, so they were easy to obtain. It is beef tallow, which I render myself. It is beeswax, which I got a organic from a hive beeswax pellets. It is arrowroot powder, and I added a little jojoba oil to kind of give it the right kind of texture. And then I just reverse engineered it, and we use that. We don't use shampoo, conditioner, or body wash. I make all of those. We don't buy those store-bought either. All of those have sulfates, and they have skin irritants and petroleum products and preservatives in them. So I make all of those. I don't wash my hair often, and when I do, I have a tendency not to use shampoo and conditioner, but what I do use is a little bit of apple cider vinegar, which I often make myself, and baking soda, like a little baking soda and water, and that, the baking soda and water cleans the hair, and then the apple cider vinegar helps balance the pH. And if I need a little bit of conditioner, I just use a little bit of coconut oil or jojoba oil after when it's wet and then style it. I don't use any other products in my hair. I've never really been a huge hair product person. My hair kind of just does what it's going to do, and I'm okay with that. I stopped wearing makeup. I don't do any foundation. I don't do any moisturizer. If my skin gets a little bit dry, I'll either use a little bit of coconut oil on my face or jojoba oil on my face, or I might use one of my tallow-based lotions that I make, because we don't use or make we don't buy body lotion. And that one was kind of crazy, the fact that people buy body lotion. So you think about it, most lotions are water-based, right? Well, what happens with water when you put it on your skin. It evaporates. So when it evaporates, it causes drying. So then you have to put more on, and then that evaporates, and you create this like vicious cycle, and you never actually get hydrated skin. True, like skin hydration comes from the inside out. It comes from your body being hydrated, and it comes from your um, hormonal system being balanced. But if you do want to add topical hydration, it's got to be oil based. It cannot, um, it can't evaporate. It's just not logical. Like you can't get hydration from when evaporation is the inevitable. So if I, do get a little bit of dry, just use a baby bit of castor oil. We use a baby bit of, how about oil or tallow based lotions that I make. And then the next one is cleaning products. So now we're not eating things that have chemicals in them. We're not putting them on our bodies. Well, why are we using them in our house? So systematically, one by one, I eliminated all of the cleaning products in my house. I eliminated the counter spray. I make my own. It is white vinegar. It is distilled water, which I distill myself. And it has some essential oils in it, which I don't buy. I also distill my own essential oils. And I like those types of things. Like the science behind distillation is really cool. And I get a kick out of that. So I will distill like lavender or lemon peels or pine needles from outside. And now I've got 3 scents that I can use in my cleaning products. And they're all natural. And I made them. And one of the cool things you get from the distillation process that you don't get when you just buy an essential oil is you get the water, like you get all this like really fragrant, really beautiful like water that comes from the steam that you can also use in your cleaning products. So there are no more counter sprays. We don't buy counter sprays. I make all that. I make my own stainless steel cleaner. I make my own glass cleaner. I make my own shower cleaner. I make my own spot treatment. I make my own toilet bowl cleaner. Otherwise, all of that stuff is gone. We don't buy anything made from Johnson & Johnson. I make it all. I will say that one of the things that I still haven't managed to find the right formula for my family is the dishwasher. I still use dishwashing powder. And in a high efficiency washer, I still use free and clear detergent. So those are 2 things I'll work on this winter to find a formula that works with our dishwasher and our washing machine. The next rabbit hole I went down was a complete and utter purge in my kitchen. I have purged every pan that had a nonstick surface. I have purged every kitchen gadget like air fryer or any of those things that have a nonstick surface. I have gotten rid of everything that was plastic. There are no storage containers for food that are plastic. There are no utensils that are plastic or have plastic anymore. It is all stainless steel, wood, cast iron, or ceramic. Even my water kettle is ceramic. Like my electric water kettle is ceramic. So I went through and threw out absolutely everything. We don't have any plastic water bottles. Like all of my like half gallons from when I was bodybuilding, they were all like big plastic jugs. Those are all gone. All of it's gone. All of my plastic Tupperware, totally gone, replaced with glass. There's no more plastic in our kitchen. And there's no more forever chemicals in our kitchen. And we cook now on cast iron, which is our favorite. And once you get used to cooking on cast iron and how to season cast iron, it is some of the best ways to cook. Like it makes the best sausage. It makes the best eggs. It makes the best ground beef. And when you're done, all you do is put a little bit of water in it. You boil it. You wipe it out. You dry it. You put it back on the stove really low. You put some beef tallow, which if you remember, I render a lot of beef tallow because I use it in a lot of places in my life. Put a little beef tallow in it and you're done. It's clean. Stainless steel. I learned to cook on stainless steel. I got pretty good at that. So it's nonstick. If you learn the process, You don't need nonstick with forever chemicals. So those are all gone. I think food tastes better out of glass anyway. So having glass containers is awesome. The things that I did keep in my kitchen were my crock pot is ceramic, so I kept that. My Dutch oven is ceramic, so I kept that. But everything else is completely gone in favor of stainless steel. So that's pretty cool. Complete kitchen purge. The next rabbit hole I went down, and this one was tougher for my husband to sort of be on board from the get-go, and that is the battle against artificial light. Our circadian rhythm, which is so important to our health, it's so important to weight loss, it's so important to our hormonal systems, it's important to our nervous system. It is the driver of everything. It's whether you get good sleep or not. It is whether your hormonal systems are functioning optimally. It drives everything. And it is disrupted by artificial light. We are not meant to be indoors all day under artificial lights. We're just not. And there is something for me in particular about LED lights and LED light bulbs that drives me insane. It makes me physically agitated, and you don't see the pulse, but it's happening. So from the moment, and this has been a lifelong battle, but now that I had started to do some research and I started to sort of understand how it impacted the human body, I was even more set in my resolve that I was going to get rid of all the LEDs in my house, which I did, except for one, and that's over my kitchen. And the light itself has the LED built into it, so it can't be replaced with anything. And I just haven't found the right fixture to replace it with incandescent. And originally, my husband hated incandescents. He says I'm a dark dweller because they're not nearly as bright as LEDs. And when he turns on a light, he wants to be able to see. Well, I get that. But incandescents don't make me agitated, and they don't dysregulate my nervous system. So that's what I wanted in the house. And when a particular administration was trying to ban incandescents, I started hoarding them like a feral raccoon. I would buy them. I'd buy every one I could buy on Amazon. I would buy them at Home Depot if I saw them. I would buy everywhere they had them, I would buy them so that I could go as long as I possibly could without having to deal with LED lights. And fortunately, that ban has been either loosened or reversed, but I'm starting to see the presence of incandescents in the world again, and it makes me so happy. But the reality is, I purged our house of as many of the LEDs as I possibly could and replaced them with incandescents. Even in the can lights in the ceiling, I got rid of all the LEDs in those and I put incandescents back in. And I don't really care about energy consumption, spending a little bit more on energy to not be agitated by the light in my house. That's a no-brainer for me. I do want to go so far as live in a more natural rhythm with the sun, and after sunset, switch to red lights in the house, but Sean's not 100% board on that yet. I have them. I put the red lights in a couple of lamps so that if I'm home alone and the sun has set, I can turn the red lights on and I don't get that presence of the longer frequencies, the blue light from the light spectrum, and I can sort of stay in a more natural rhythm with the earth and the sun and, improve my quality of sleep. But that being said, some areas that I do need to improve on is using electronics before bed. I know that that's disrupting my circadian rhythm. I'm not great yet at sort of unplugging a couple hours before I'm ready to go to bed so that my system has a time to reset. That's something I will work on. And the one thing I am good is I don't grab my phone when I first wake up in the morning. So on the front load a healthy circadian rhythm routine, because on the back end, it's not the best yet. And that sort of leads to the last rabbit hole I went down, and that's your body's relationship to nature. It's very tied to your circadian rhythm. Primally, we would have lived much closer to nature and outside and the seasons, and we'd wake with the sun and we'd go to bed with the sun, and we'd sort of respect those natural rhythms. Well, modern life doesn't respect those natural rhythms. So I work hard personally to get outside in the morning, experience early morning light. It's really good for your circadian rhythm. It's really good for your nervous system. It kind of sets the foundation for your day. So in the morning, I do try and stand on my porch and, face in the direction that the sun is coming up and have my coffee and just sort of let that light hit my eyes. We will see. It is summertime right now. We will see how easy that is to maintain in the winter when I am highly sensitive to cold and I do not like to be cold. I may have to have a different solution for sort of experiencing that. And I'm kind of bummed that the coatings of my windshield in my car block some of the light that comes through the UV light, because those are such important rays, like for the eyes and the human body, that like in the morning, it's kind of a bummer that like if I'm driving all that early morning light and I'm out early, that I don't sort of get to reap the full benefit because my car's filtering some of those wavelengths. I also try and sync my body's frequency with the frequency of the earth. I like to squish bare feet. I like to walk around in bare feet. And grounding, like be near trees, like allow my nervous system and my body to sync with the earth. I think that that's something we've gotten away from that's important to our body and our being human. And these aren't things that I do religiously every day. I'm not that kind of person, but I do try and be mindful, and I do try and sync my body's like natural rhythms and regulate my nervous system through nature and breathing rather than just stay in a sort of like dysregulated state. So I'm conscious. I try and be present as much as I can. I try and focus on my breath when I need to. I'm not someone who can sit on her pillow, her meditation pillow, at the same time every day in a very rigid, structured sort of way. I sort of meditate when I need to, where I am. I do a lot of it sort of like on the go and in flux with my own natural rhythms. But I do try and like, if I feel like my nervous system is getting a little bit dysregulated, to take a moment, take a deep breath and sort of like diffuse that energy and find, reactivate the parasympathetic nervous system and not allow my body to stay in a dysregulated state for very long. That's not always easy. Like life hits, life's hard. Like when you're busy, every once in a while I'll look at my Aura ring and say, yeah, like I was in a dysregulated state a lot today. Tomorrow or tonight, I'm going to find a way to sort of like regulate myself. And the last sort of rabbit hole that I've kind of gone down is exercising for longevity as opposed to beating myself up day in and day out training wise. I burn out that way. I now move in a way that's like makes me feel good. Still build muscle, like strength training is still incredibly important to longevity, particularly for women. Like our mortality is often linked to our capacity to get ourselves off the floor if we fall down. And what that means is, do we have enough muscle mass to pick ourselves up? Do we have enough muscle mass to do things? And I've seen people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s that like are just starting to look really, really old. And I'm like, I'm not going out that way. Like I'm in my 70s and 80s still going to be able to change a light bulb. I'm still going to be going for walks. I'm still going to be taking care of myself. Like aging is not inevitable. Aging poorly is certainly not inevitable. It's a choice, and it's a reflective of your lifestyle choices. And I lost a father who was 65 years old. That entirely has to do with the lifestyle choices he made. And I don't want to make those lifestyle choices. He was immobile. He was overweight. And there were a lot of things about his life that were harder because of that. I want to be as young and as mobile and as nimble as I can for as long as I can. So that means maintaining some muscle. That means focusing on strength training in a way that serves my body. And that means going for walks. That means for moving in a way that makes my body feel good and isn't going to age me faster. Now, there are some rabbit holes I've gone down that I haven't been able to sort of implement in my life yet fully. Like I still love my Birkenstocks, but zero drop, like flat feet, having healthy feet, like that is something that I'm working on, making sure that all of my shoes allow my toes to expand. and that I can feel the ground and I can do, do a lot of those things. Like I've changed my sneakers out. Like those are zero drop, like minimalist shoes. I have some like boots for the winter that are minimalist. I have some flip-flops that are minimalist, but I still wear my Birkenstocks every once in a while, and all that like arch support and like the squishing of the toes, that's not great. Some other areas, like there's just some areas that I want to work on, but I have to take them in stride and I have to do them in stride. But once you sort of start going down these health and wellness rabbit holes, one leads to the other. It is like this process where once you see it, you can't unsee it, and everything in your life starts to crumble. And you can look at it two ways. Like everything you've been sold is a lie. Yeah, that's true. Most of the health advice, most of the wellness advice, all of the products, that's all marketing. It's all big business, and none of it makes you any healthier, which sucks because it's so prevalent and it's so out there. But you can look at the other ways. Like you can take control. There are alternatives. They're not hard to implement. And once you sort of start going down these little rabbit holes, you're going to end up down a whole bunch of others. And it's kind of fun. Like you do a little bit of research and then you make a change, and it's beneficial in your life and it's not hard. And you're like, oh, this is cool. Like this is neat. And we've really enjoyed like sort of examining all the facets of our lives and cleaning them up and finding ways to be healthier and finding ways to be less toxic. And it's fortunately something my husband has very much been on board with. And I saw a meme. It was like, my husband doesn't have to worry about me cheating, but what he does have to worry about me is adding another level of complexity to my health and wellness routine. Yeah, that applies to us. But fortunately, he's usually supportive and he's usually on board. And, he does his own research, and we find ways that sort of work for us as a family. We don't even feed our dogs dog food anymore. We make them dog food. And I'm in the process of transitioning them from sweet potatoes, meat, and a healthy fat to all meat. But you kind of have to do those in stages. So the only thing we buy at the grocery store is the food that we feed our dogs. And that's kind of like, I think that's kind of neat. And I'm like, these various things that we've done and we've tried and we've managed to implement in our life, I genuinely enjoy doing the research, and I genuinely enjoy trying to implement them into our lives, particularly because the results always lead to me feeling better or healthier or creating just a better environment for my family. So it's fun and it's exciting, and that's what this channel's about. Man, I'm going to share all of these things, and I'm going to go into each of these like little, rabbit holes in more detail and talk about like how you get from point A to point B. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Like we're going to become the healthiest versions of ourselves together. So thank you for being here, and see you in the next one.